Welcome to Effective Evolution. And this episode is with Titan. And this is Panorama, which is pia20708. The thing about this panorama is that we must look at this very carefully because there are many designs, patterns, and architectural landform phenomena that are quite evasive in that you'll notice various things that are very distracting, but after a while you will be able to discern some areas that have shadows that indicate depth and a whole bunch of structures that have to have been created with some type of higher intelligence or whatnot. And we'll get to it right away, and please enjoy. Back on Titan, a moon of Saturn, and the title is A Titanic Labyrinth. So we click on it, and we get this. And we're using these synthetic aperture to get a radar image that was obtained by Cassini around June 7, 2016. Panorama of Titan, that is pia20708, obtained by the Cassini spacecraft. And this is the view. Now, with this particular panorama, we'll have to concentrate a bit more and try to focus in on objects that, and also areas, objects and areas that come to your attention, no matter how long it takes. And that's because the hue of this panorama is quite confusing. But after a while, you'll notice some things. For example, right here, you could probably determine some circular structures, globular structures, or whatnot, even depth. And of course, it is contained in a whole smorgasbord of other structures and designs and whatnot all over the place. And you could probably notice this round circular globe-like structure here rising up off the surface. And also over here, you could probably determine some organized architecture here. You can probably notice the linear patterns as well. And on this section here too, you can probably discern this design here. And after a while, you determine certain structures. And if we get right to the examination tools, if we fooled around a bit with the exposure, you could probably notice some more detail here according to the areas we just went over. If we turn the brightness down a bit, you might notice things. And let's go in a bit more. And as we noted, there is some type of circular structure rising off the surface here, as long as some other structures are around it too, in addition as well. You may or may not be able to notice this right away, but they are there. And Please don't rush yourself, but eventually you'll notice these designs. And here's the other area we mentioned. Now if we expand a bit here, probably notice structures and symmetry and architecture all over the place. And not just here, but over the whole panorama, of course. And over here too, you can see some depths, maybe even some shadows, some shadowy areas as well, and structures inside of them. And also, with the whole scheme of things, you probably notice these other structures here, and linear patterns. And here's the area we mentioned before, and there is some shadow there too. It looks like some type of squarish rectangle. But of course, don't rush yourself. Just get familiar with things with this Panorama of Titan, pia20708. And we'll take it one step at a time. Is there an established settlement here of some sort? On Titan, a moon of Saturn. A Panorama of Titan, pia20708. We're adding on the contrast and brightness gadget. And these are some areas that have been highlighted. And you can notice it's a bit lighter, but you could still determine various designs and the like all over the place. And these areas are some that have been selected to put some more attention on. You can notice various designs and structures, patterns, symmetry. Seems to be a linear shape here with a globe on top of it. Geometrical patterns. And it will take some time. This seems to be a very peculiar structure here. Designs in it. And remember, there is an overall scheme of things as well. And there's that pattern we mentioned earlier. You can still determine it's there. That's unique designs. And this is the area without any highlighting on it. And going in further, please focus in a bit and note any effects it might have on your perception. And of course, we will crop some areas, that is, zoom in on some particular areas and try to have it separate from the overall panorama. Panorama of Titan, pia20708. We've added on the contrast brightness tool as well as the shadow tool with the Apple editor And voila. And this would be the area that we're going to focus in on. This area here. And trying not to get too pixelated, you can see that there is a certain depth here. And structures seem to be rising up out of this rectangular square structure or perimeter. And this is the globe that seems to be rising, that's attached to something here underneath it, and intricate connections around it as well, under it here. Adding on some more of the contrast and brightness element, you can see that globular structure is here. Bear in mind, we don't want to get too pixelated, but it does seem to be rising up off of the surface of Titan. This area here. Area to look at with this panorama of Titan, pia20708, is this area here. And particularly up here, perhaps you could make out the linear patterns here. There seems to be a triangular form, and also some very interesting designs in the center area, not to mention all around the structure. And adding on the contrast and brightness manipulation somewhat, we get this. And you can notice some more shadows. However, the triangle is still there with some architectural designs on the center. And also all around it as well. If you look very carefully, you can notice structures attached to structures. And hopefully it's not pareidolia, but this panorama is here, and it does have these architectural forms contained in it. And if we look over the various ridges or whatnot, as your eyes get acquainted with this, you'll definitely be able to discern these structures. But just focus in this way and think of this triangular form here with some structures inside and here as well. You can see here what appears to be a dome-shaped type of top or whatnot. Structures here. Please have a terrific time with this exploration on this part of the panorama. The next thing we'll do is to add the dodge mode, and this brings out the lighter areas of the panorama of pia20708. This is the area here. And maybe you could pick out some structures here rising up off of the surface of Titan. Two of them that seem to have some type of globe structure on top of them. The area we went over before, this rectangular square area, and also the triangular designed area here. Maybe you could discern some structures here as well, round structure here, intricate geometrical patterns here that look like linear walled structures or whatnot. Over here as well, some globes and other structure. And this structure here that seems to have some zigzagging wall patterns or whatnot. And there's a triangular structure here. Seems to be structures rising up off the surface here. And adding on the contrast and brightness gadget, we get this. And you can probably notice those structures here rising up off the surface, as well as that zigzag structure here. Some more structures here. This looks like another tower rising up off the surface. Interesting geometry. And back to a triangular friend here that seems to have some other walled structures beside it. And over here to those globular structures that we mentioned. And this is with the dodge tool. And more specifically, these areas here. Hopefully the highlights will help you to have a somewhat more concise gander at this area. And back to the bare area with the dodge tool. Now we're using the shadow tool to have the quote confiscations and obfuscations and hidden matter that might be there. And the thing about the shadow tool, or the burn tool if you'd like to call it that, it does bring out the darker areas. Now this is where we just were on Panorama pia20708 of Titan. And this is the area that we went over, the square rectangular area. And also the other area up here that has a triangular pattern to it. And over here as well, some other structures. And hopefully you can still make out that those structures are there. The rising structures here. Might be a bit hidden because it is so darkened or what with the shadow tool, and you can probably make out the zigzag area as well. And up here too, that triangular designed vicinity. You can probably notice some other districts here. Here. It will take a while, of course, to get
acquainted with all of the structures here. And adding on some of the fill light and clarity, which brings out some lighter areas, but we're adding it on to the shadowy version, or the burn version, and this is what we get. Now you can probably notice those towers rising here, as we noted before in this area. And also our friend up here with the triangular district or whatnot, and all kinds of structures in between. And of course you will get acquainted with this, just a matter of time before your perception adjusts to it. And there seems to be structures all around. And if we go in a bit further, you can probably notice structures rising this way off of the surface of Titan, this area of Titan. There's that rectangular area as well. And over here, we noted some designs. This looks like, now that I just had a gander over here, I've noticed some globes rising here in a circular form or whatnot. And hopefully it's not pareidolia, but hopefully you could discern some of these structures with this mode on Titan. And if not, of course, keep at it, and eventually you will be able to come up with some more detail on this pia20708 area of Titan, obtained by the Cassini vehicle around 2007. Next, we're going to explore this area here, which does seem to have some structures arising right out from it. Perhaps it will take a while to have the three-dimensional form noticed or perceived, but we'll be looking at that area, and this would be the area here. Don't want to get too pixelated, but you could notice that there is a bit of depth here. You can notice the shadow section here as well. And this would be the area here. Now just let that be absorbed by you, and hopefully you can notice some very intricate structures, designs, linear patterns, or whatnot. You might even say that it's a type of settlement in this area on Titan, pia20708. And this would be applying the contrast and brightness gadget somewhat, and adding on some more of the contrast and brightness mode or overtone. You get this. you could notice some very intricate designs and patterns in here. Structures all over the place. Seems to be levels and whatnot. And this would be the area here. This area right here. Other notable areas would be up here, here, and that triangular object we mentioned earlier on, the triangular design. Lots of patterns and artistic architecture on the landform. And this would be some areas that we've covered before. There might be a bit of overlap. However, if you call this area section B, and this section here, section A, it might make it a little easier to categorize the areas that we're looking at. And looking at some other areas, you can see that we've added on a few more. This would be the area we just covered, area A or vicinity 3 or whatnot. This would be area 2, area B, another area here. And here as well. And there's that triangular design. You might be able to notice some structures in 3D form. And if we rotate this around a bit, you can see that there are some areas that we've already covered.
And wrapping things up then with this panorama of Titan, a moon of Saturn, pia20708, obtained by the Cassini spacecraft around 2007. You must admit that after you get used to the scenery, you do notice some very interesting designs and structures and whatnot. And they do have some type of organized symmetry to them, linear patterns, geometry, and the like. And I'm sure you'll agree that it would indicate the presence of an extraterrestrial civilization on Titan. And after we highlighted some areas a few times and tried to categorize the various areas or whatnot, there's still a bit of overwhelming distractions in that there are many, many areas that we could look at. And you're encouraged to go about your space exploration and explore and find as much detail as you'd like and come up with your ideas or whatnot. And until next time, please enjoy your space exploration.